Right, shalom, shalom. Before I get started, as always, I want to give all praise to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakah Kudash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutation and blessings to the hopeful members of the elect scattered throughout the four winds of the earth that believe wholeheartedly in the true doctrine that's being pushed throughout the four corners of the earth, and who are in hope of mercy and salvation during Jacob's trouble, as well as when Yahweh Shai returns. This video here is just some quick info relating to, or I would say a step closer to the implementation of the RFID technology, all right? Which this is the Real ID. Now, I first heard about this going back in 2008. The apostles and elders brought this information out way back then, okay? And I remember distinctly, they said a Real ID is going to be mandatory. And lo and behold, we are at that stage to where a Real ID is mandatory, okay? It's mandatory as of January 1st if you want to get on any type of military base here in the States. And as of October of next year, it's going to be mandatory if you want to fly or enter into any type of federal building, all right? And this is a prelude to the RFID technology. I'm gonna read a little bit of this Real ID Act, because this is playing directly into the hands, or directly into the mark of the beast being accepted worldwide, just as this will be accepted. Because just as this is you're gonna have limitations to society without it. Well, without the mark of the beast, you're going to be totally crippled without it. All right. So this is gearing the minds up for the real ID, which is, all right, the mark of the beast, which is the RFID technology. All right. Now, this here is the Real ID Act, establishes minimum security standards for license issuance and production, and prohibits federal agencies from accepting for certain purposes driver's licenses and identification cards from states not meeting the Act's minimum standards. All right. So all states have to comply to this federal law. So what is that telling you? That all states are under federal law. All right. It says the purposes covered by the act are accessing federal facilities, entering nuclear power plants, and boarding federally regulated commercial aircraft. So that's flying anywhere. All right. If you want to fly domestically, if you want to fly overseas, you will have to possess this RFID technology to get into a federal facility, all right? Which courts, all right, all government facilities are under federal law, all right? The federal law overrides all their little laws that they have in place. So in a nutshell, they're telling you, you're going to be crippled into entering any type of federal building, all right, if you don't have this Real ID. And like I said, this is just a prelude to the mark of the beast, all right? Now, to prove that the states are all under federal law, look who's all compliant, all right? There's not one state that's under review or not compliant, all right? Not one state. You have 3 states who were granted extensions for them to get their act in order. Actually, 4. All right, who were granted extensions in order to get their act together. All right, with the Department of Homeland Security, which is the United States. All right. It says the Department of Homeland Security announced on December 20th, 2013, a phased enforcement plan for the Real ID Act, as passed by Congress, that it will implement the act in measured, fair, and responsible way. Secure driver's licenses and identification documents are a vital component of our national security framework. All right. So this is nothing more than papers, please. All right. And you got to have certain documents to prove that you are a U.S. citizen in order to receive this. All right. Let's check this federal enforcement thing out. All right. Real ID federal enforcement. All right. Secure driver's licenses and identification documents are a vital component of our national security framework. The Real ID Act, passed by Congress in 2005, enacted the 9/11 Commission's recommendation that the federal government set standards for the issuance of sources of identification, such as driver's licenses. The Act established minimum security standards for license issuance and production and prohibits federal agencies from accepting, for certain purposes, driver licenses and identification cards from states not meeting the Act's minimum standards, was basically we read. Okay, restricted areas of Department of Homeland Security, full enforcement. Restricted areas for federal facilities and nuclear power plants, full enforcement as of 2014. All right, 7/21/2014. Okay. Semi-restricted areas for federal facilities, i.e., facilities where public can access but must present ID. All right. Federal security levels 1 and 2. That was fully enforced 1/19/20. Federal security levels 1, 3, 4, 5 military facilities. 10/10/2015. Boarding commercial aircraft, which that's still pending. Okay. Passengers from non-compliant states without extensions, state-based. Passengers from all states without compliant documents, card-based. So as of October 1st, 2020, it will all be fully enforced. Okay? All of it will be fully enforced. This is semi-restricted areas for federal facilities. And they didn't really name the where public can access but must present ID, because this is a lot of places, okay? Like museums. Museums are federally owned, okay? Let's look up some federal facilities, all right, that the public can access, all right? Let's do that. So what is Esau Edom doing? He's slowly but surely locking things down. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe this one to say something. Okay, Real ID to be enforced at federal buildings beginning in October 2020. All right. Let's see. See if we can find something. Well, look at this here. It says states or territories that are not Real ID compliant or have not received an extension by Department of Homeland Security to comply will be most impacted. Okay, reacted keeping identity safe. President Brian Zimmer, residents of New Hampshire, Minnesota, Louisiana, and New York are already being denied access to a few hundred federal facilities. Of these, only in New York does the governor have the authority to direct the State Department of Motor Vehicles to comply. So the Department of Motor Vehicles, that's a federal facility. All right. The other 3 states require legislative action to remove anti-real ID barriers. So there you have it. And I just showed you here. Now this article was back in 2015, okay? But when you go here, like we was just at back in 2015, states were non-compliant, but now all of them damn near are compliant, and you have some that have extensions to them. All right. So one federal facility that most people deal with is the DMV. All right, we just read it. That's one a federal facility. Court buildings. All right, libraries. Okay. Any facility that the public can get access to, you're gonna have to present your real ID. You're gonna have to present your papers. All right. So this is nothing more but a prelude to the RFID technology. Look at here. It says, according to Government Services Administration, there are 275,195 buildings that are owned and leased by the federal government as of 2014. But there's only been real ID enforcement at 217 of these buildings. This next phase of enforcement will include semi-restricted federal facilities with federal security levels 3, 4, or 5. Federal buildings where no ID checks currently occur, like museums, benefits, offices, and government hospitals, will not be among those covered by the increased enforcement, according to the Department of Homeland Security. But by October, they will be. All right. It says states or territories that are real ID compliant or have not received an extension. Oh, I read that one. All right. Let's see. Let's see what this. It says one of the Department of Homeland Security's priorities is the protection of federal employees and private citizens who work within and visit U.S. government-owned or leased facilities. The guidelines state the Interagency Security Committee, chaired by the Department of Homeland Security, consists of 54 federal departments and agencies and has as its mission the development of security standards and best practices for non-military federal facilities in the United States. All right? And that's a lot of places that people use on a daily basis, man. All right? That's a lot of facilities, man. All right? On a daily basis. It's not just about aircraft. All right, traveling through air. It's going to be a lot more than that. See, when this thing rolls out, if we get to that point without Esau doing something crazy, like blowing something up and forcing the chip, a lot of people are going to be crippled, all right? Because you won't have your real ID, and you're gonna be it's going to tell you federal limits apply. And these different facilities will look at that as not they won't look at that as an ID, all right? Like if you got to go to the DMV, all right? If you don't have a real ID, they're not even going to deal with you unless you got the paperwork and everything to to apply for the real ID, to retrieve your real ID, all right? Which you need a birth certificate or proof of citizenship, i.e. visa, things of that nature. So who is this going to impact the most? It's going to impact the tribes, really the most, especially those who are over here on and they consider so-called immigrants. All right. When you go to apply to renew your license, if you don't have the proper documents, guess what? You're not getting your license. You can't renew it. All right. So Esau is slowly but surely. Well, I'm not even gonna say slowly. All right. It started slowly back in '05 when they presented the act. All right, the Real ID Act of '05 implementation, an Interagency Security Committee guide contains a list of approved federal and state issued IDs. All right, so this was back in '05. That's when it was moving slow. All right, now 15 years into the 15 years later, beginning October of 2020, this is the ID that's going to be accepted everywhere. All right, any place that's owned by the federal government. All right, which really all of this is owned by the federal government, because why would you have damn near all the states compliant? Okay, why? Because they get federal funding. The states get federal funding from the federal government. All right. So all in all, Esau is he locking things down. And next, after this, all right, after the Real ID is implemented and enforced, the RFID technology will be implemented and enforced. All right. Let me try something here. Let me Google something. And like I said, this is just something I did. I'm doing on the fly, doing a little research. Let's do RFID and the Real ID. Let's see what we can find here. All right. Real ID Act. What is Real ID and will it affect travel plan? It's going to, see, people think it's only going to be travel. It's going to be a lot more than that. Real ID reality check. RFID journal. Let's check that. Let's see what this says. It says, in this viewpoint from AIM Global, editor Bert Moore discusses the supposed victory privacy advocates achieved when the U.S. Department of Homeland Security opted to use barcodes instead of RFID on driver's licenses. It says, in this viewpoint, let's see. Okay. It says the Real ID Act passed in May of '05 was part of a much larger law that aimed to increase security within the U.S. One of the key provisions was to establish a national standard for state-issued driver's license and non-driver's identification cards. Privacy advocates worried that this was the start of a national ID card program that will be used to track citizens, and some feared the government would mandate the use of radio frequency identification, which they will. All right? They still are going to mandate the use of radio frequency identification, which is the mark of the beast, okay? They still will, all right? This is like a test run, this Real ID Act, all right? It says, in the licenses as a way of monitoring people, that didn't happen. In this well-reasoned commentary, Bert Moore, editor of AIM Global's AIM Connections newsletter, gives his insights on the issue. Let's see if we can find a nugget. Oh, look, they took it down. They took it down. It probably did have some in it. All right. But let's see. Let's click here to radio frequency identification. It says any method of identifying unique items using radio waves, typically a reader, also called an interrogator, communicates with a transponder which holds digital information in a microchip. But there are chipless forms of RFID tags that use material to reflect back a portion of the radio waves beamed at them. All right, but we know that the end goal of Esau Edom is to implement a microchip under the skin of the people. All right. It says trouble with real ID is RFID. Let's see what this one says. The trouble with real ID is RFID. It says as real ID regs get closer, states are balking at RFID requirements. Okay. A balk is like when you play baseball, when the pitcher balked, he basically he hesitated into throwing it into his motion of the pitch. All right, so states are balking at RFID requirements, meaning they hesitating, and this is back in this February 8, 2006. All right. Now, let's look up this word balk just to make sure I'm correct. Right, to stop at an obstacle and refuse to proceed or to do something specified. All right, like I said, in baseball, when the pitcher balks, he goes into motion, but then he stops, and that's basically a penalty in baseball. All right, so back in 06, states were balking. Okay, but I doubt it's that so much now. All right. Because people are getting the RFID technology. You know, this is over 10 years ago. Okay, let's read a little bit. Let's see. We could read this. There's not much to read. Let's see if we can find a nugget in here. But the point is, Real ID is just a prelude to the implementation of the RFID. Just how they made the states comply. Where we at? Comply to getting the Real ID. Look at that. They all compliant. Okay. They all compliant. So when the RFID technology and all states are going to require for all their citizens in their states to have that RFID technology, guess what? They're going to have to be compliant. Otherwise, they won't receive any federal funding. All right? Just like this. All right? Let's go back to this article real quick. It says Thomas A. Schatz, president of Citizens Against Government Waste, has an opinion piece in CIO where he lambasts the Real ID law. That's the law under driver's licenses will have to be updated into national ID cards, essentially for requiring either RFID chips or 2D mag strips, both of which are too expensive and too insecure, he says. All right, which, like I said, this is 06. This system is already in play. They're getting ready. You're gonna have to have that Real ID, and eventually you're gonna have to have the mark of the beast in order to function in society. Period. All right. It says, whichever alternative is used, the new system will place a heavy burden on state and local governments, especially departments of motor vehicles. States will now have to verify birth certificates, federal immigration documents, and social security numbers with the appropriate federal departments. Build a database to store and secure identification documents and train personnel to use the new system. All right. So this was '06. All right. And if you go to the DMV now, those people behind the counter, they are enforcing this, man. They enforcing this real ID thing, and they're gonna enforce the RFID because why? They won't receive any federal funding. Okay, and those people at them jobs, they need that federal funding so they can get paid. All right. It says fees and taxes will have to be increased to cover whatever costs are not paid for by the federal government. But computer chip technology would be the far more expensive of the two options. Citizens Against Government Waste examined the issue in its '05 report. Real ID, Big Brother, could cost big money. All right. The total cost of issuing new licenses with embedded computer chips to 196 million drivers could reach 17 billion or 348 million per state. The average cost of license would shoot from between $10 to $25, more than $93. Computer chips could be even more expensive than estimated because the chips are brittle and license containing them would likely need to be replaced more frequently than non-chip licenses. In addition, the life expectancy of the rapidly changing technology could require frequent and expensive infrastructure upgrades, which the Real ID doesn't have the chip in it. The chip is going to be the next thing that they implement, that they're going to make they're going to mandate. All right. This Real ID is just a prelude to the RFID technology. All right. It says even more troubling than the financial cost is the potential invasion of privacy. Right. All right. Because once the real RFID chip, all right, is implemented and you have to receive it under your skin, that's it for you. All right. You are totally locked into this system. It says RFID chips have the memory to store every detail about a person, including health records, family history, and bank and credit card transactions. And this is what the Bible says when you go to Revelation, the 13th chapter. Okay? And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their forehead, and that none shall buy nor sell, save he that have the mark. All right? There's your bank and your credit card transactions. Okay? Not only that, your health records. Okay? Family history, criminal history. All right. All this is stored on that RFID chip. All right. It says RFID chips can also be remotely accessed by handheld scanner, raising the risk of identity theft. In contrast, non-chip licenses have to be physically read and therefore physically stolen to be compromised. All right. And they can't be physically stolen if it's under your skin. All right. Which is where people are getting it now, all right? Just like people were getting the Real ID going back 05 and on, you got people, they were getting the RFID all the way back then, okay? Depending on how high you are up in the government, you more than likely already have the chip, all right? It says, in the wake of recent controversy over the federal government's domestic spying program, chip-based licenses could also multiply the opportunities for abuse, all right, which the license doesn't have the chip in it, all right? But there will come a day where Esau will enforce the RFID chip upon you, okay? And you won't need no card anymore because you will have that RFID chip under your skin, okay? Look at this. For chip technology to be effective, police departments, airports, and bars would have to install RFID chip readers and they're already installed everywhere. Okay, this is what you have. You have what they call your tap payments. That's the RFID chip reader. Okay, so this was, like I said, this was going back to '06. What? Yeah, '06. So the technology and everything that they need to read the chips is already in place. All right. One of the brothers just got back from London, and they had, everywhere he went, they had the tap pay, where you just tapped your debit card. All right. And they were telling him that he had the old technology because he was inserting his card and putting in his number. All right. But now they just, like my new debit card that I got, it has the tap payment on there where you just tap your card on the reader. All right. So this, look, in May of '05, the California State Senate passed legislation that will prohibit the use of chips in driver license and several other forms of identification. West Virginia and New York recently ruled out chip technology for their new driver's license programs. All right. But the chip technology is here in 2019. All right. Again, this is '05. All right. Douglas Thompson, manager of driver licensing in West Virginia, told Car Technology magazine that the cost of computer chips for licenses would have been astronomical. In the same article, the New York Department of Motor Vehicles directed that investigations pointed to the ripple effect of costs on government and commercial establishments. Now, if you know, if you work, a lot of jobs don't even deal with time cards no more. All right, you have a card where you tap against the machine, the clock. All right, and it clocks you in and it clocks you out. All right, or if not a card, it's your fingerprint. Okay, and this is all in works right now. I make deliveries to warehouses, all right, on a daily basis. And these warehouses, this is how they clock in. From an old rugged, rundown warehouse to these brand new warehouses, everybody clocks in with the card that they tap against the clock, all right? There's no more time. I ain't seen a time card in years, all right? It says, for chip technology to be effective, all right, police departments, airports, and bars would have to install RFID readers, and they have that, all right? So what's coming? The chip technology. It's already here, all right? It's already here, okay? The chip technology is already here. The only thing we're waiting for is the mandate of it, all right? The mandate of the RFID technology. I'm going to go read the scripture, all right, in Revelation 13. Like I said, I was just doing some reading on that Real ID. And, that's a prelude to this man causing you to receive the RFID. All right, as you saw in this picture here, Salakia, this picture here, all states are compliant. And believe me, Oregon, Oklahoma, and New Jersey are going to be compliant as well. They're not going to, be exempt. If they want to continue to get federal funding from the federal government, they're going to be compliant, all right? And they're going to do the same thing with the RFID technology. All right? They're going to do the same thing. All right? So, Revelation 13:16, and he calls them all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right, which is this man's system. See, you had these people in these articles, didn't think it was possible. They would have to install all these chip readers. Well, the chip readers are installed. All right. It says, here is wisdom. Let him that have the understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. All right. Which is chi psi stigma. All right. When you go into that, it breaks down what that mark is. It's an engraving. All right. It's going to be put under your skin. The RFID chip will be mandated to be put under your skin. All right. And if you receive that chip, Revelation 14:9, all right? And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast, okay, the beast is what? Esau's power structure, all right? Esau, Edom's power structure, going all the way back to Greece up until now with NATO, okay? That's the beast. And his image, his ways of life, all right? And there's a lot of things that tie into the image, all right? Philosophy, food, his image is the way that he pushes lifestyle on people, all right? And receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, all right? So if you receive that mark in his forehead or in his hand, if you worshiping the beast, if you down with this system, and you down with the image, the lifestyles of this beast, automatically you're going to receive that mark, all right? And this is what's going to happen. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, which is the nuclear destruction, all right? And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And this is why we push you are not to take that RFID technology, because that is the mark of the beast. That is the mark that is forbidden for us to take. All right? So I'm gonna stop there. Like I said, I was just reading up on this. You know what I mean? And Spirit told me this is a prelude. I got the epiphany that this is a prelude to the mandate of the RFID technology. And going back to 2005, certain people thought it wouldn't work, but now they see that the chip readers and everything is installed for the RFID to be implemented, just as the real ID is to be mandated come October 1st, 2020. All right. So about 1 year from now. All right. If we even make it that far. Okay. Before Esau implements the RFID technology. All right. So Lord will, this was some informative information to the hopeful elect, giving all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Until next time, Shalom.